The Browns had the splash of the offseason, trading for Deshaun Watson from the Texans, a huge move to set up Cleveland for years to come. But the Browns might have just put themselves in a really bad situation. You still have Baker Mayfield, who was the first overall pick only 4 years ago, and he's owed almost $19 million. And oh yeah, Cleveland might also need him because Watson could get suspended. It's just a disaster. It's hard to blame the Browns for trading for Deshaun Watson though. He's a transcendent talent who may dominate the league for years to come. Since he was drafted back at the 2017 NFL Draft by Houston, he's led the league in passing yards, been named to the Pro Bowl 3 times, and owns a ton of different NFL records. And it's hard to blame the Texans for trading him away too. Houston got an absolute haul in exchange for Watson. The Texans traded Watson in a 6th for 3 first-round picks. Yes, 3, a 3rd round pick, and 2 4th round picks. Again, they got an absolute haul. Insanity. The contract broken down looks a bit interesting though. For 4 years of the deal, Watson is paid $46 million a year, but not year 1. Instead, he got a $45 million signing bonus. So his base salary in 2022 is just $1 million. Why is that? Well, just in case he gets suspended. Of course, Watson originally requested a trade, but I think it's safe to say that the Texans didn't want him there anyways after his off-the-field issues. It's no secret that 22, and now actually 23 women have accused Watson of sexual assault. Now, it ended up going to jury to potentially charge him criminally, but the jury decided to not indict him. Watson still has to go up against 22 civil lawsuits, and maybe 23 now. I'm not sure the details of the allegations yet, but here's the thing. It doesn't matter what happens at a legal level. The NFL can still do whatever they want. If the league wants to suspend him, they will. And clearly, the Browns and Watson know that's a real possibility, which is why his contract is set up so oddly. So, what if Watson is suspended? Oh boy, that would be a mess. Baker Mayfield is still on the Browns roster, and it's unsure of whether or not he's even going anywhere, and maybe that'll come down to whether or not Watson gets suspended. Baker has been a serviceable QB. Cleveland took him first overall back in 2018, and he helped take a Browns team that was 1-31 in the 2 years before he got there into a somewhat respectable team. He even won a playoff game in 2020. He won a playoff game for the Browns. That hadn't happened since Cleveland became a team again back in 1999. Baker came in and made his NFL debut down 14-0 and led the Browns back to a victory to snap a 19-game winless streak. The Browns went 7-8-1, their best record since 2007. Unfortunately, he regressed. In the next season, Cleveland and Baker struggled, but 2020 proved to be a breakout year. Baker threw 26 touchdowns to only 8 interceptions, and Cleveland went 11-5 and also won their first playoff game since 1994. The future was bright in Cleveland, until it wasn't. Baker had a down 2021, but there is a caveat to that. He played with a partially torn labrum for almost the entire season and eventually underwent surgery. Simply put, playing through that injury cost him millions and potentially his job. Yes, he did have a down year, and no, he was never going to be as good as Watson. But imagine if he was healthy. What does his season even look like then? And in his first 3 seasons in Cleveland, Baker had 3 different head coaches. Hugh Jackson when he got there, Freddie Kitchens in 2019, and finally Kevin Stefanski, who now gets to coach Watson after a year starting Baker. Baker hasn't exactly had the easiest road in the NFL, but he's still fought through adversity really well. Suddenly, the big question is where Baker Mayfield will be playing this fall. You'd think a young guy like Baker, who has shown promise, wouldn't be super hard to get off of your hands. But it's a lot more complicated than that. Chances are, even if someone has called about Baker, the Browns just aren't listening. At least not yet. If Deshaun Watson does get suspended, Cleveland has to throw a quarterback out there in 2020, and it may be Baker Mayfield. It would cause quite the toxic environment, I'd have to imagine, starting a guy that is your clear number 2 choice, and you replaced him without warning. Even when the time does come for the Browns to attempt a trade for Baker Mayfield, it might not be that easy. See, Baker's base salary for the last 4 years has been less than $1 million, but since the Browns exercised his 5th-year option, he's making almost $19 million in 2022. Now, that's going to make it a lot harder to offload Baker, because now Cleveland has to get rid of his contract too. My guess, the Browns would have to retain some of that contract if they do want to trade him, but it's also possible that Cleveland decides to release him and just eat the dead cap. If Deshaun Watson isn't suspended, you have to find a way to get rid of Baker. Otherwise, you've created a complete disaster in the locker room. During Baker Mayfield's time in Cleveland, which I guess is still technically going on, one of the messages people had was that if Baker Mayfield couldn't get it done with the Browns, he wasn't going to find a better situation. And I honestly think that's true. Cleveland was having some success, but just not enough. Baker was put around a good team. Yes, it could have been better, but still a very good team. Cleveland saw an opportunity where it could make a clear upgrade at the quarterback position and took a shot at it. I don't think anyone will disagree that Watson is just objectively better than Mayfield, and for the future, theoretically, the Browns should be in a better place because of it. That all being said, if this doesn't work out, the Browns' future is completely destroyed. Their immediate future is bright if Watson works out, but if he doesn't hang around in Cleveland or he just isn't good, the Browns franchise is going to be miserable for years to come. They gave up 5 total picks and don't have a first-round selection for the next 3 years. Everyone knows just how valuable a first-rounder is. To not have one for 3 years can be detrimental. Crazy thing is, that wouldn't even be the worst part if the Deshaun Watson trade just doesn't work out. It would be the potential dead cap. Try $55 million a year for 4 years. That is straight up insanity, and that's exactly what the Browns will be left with if this doesn't work out. The Browns are mortgaging their entire future on Deshaun Watson. Either this works, or Cleveland is screwed for years to come. And honestly, it looks like it's set up to succeed. It's apparent that the Browns are doing everything possible to build around Deshaun Watson, or even just improve. The biggest offseason acquisition was trading for Amari Cooper. Cooper has gone for over 1,000 yards 4 times in his career, and was once an absolute stud for the Raiders before he was traded to Dallas in 2018. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler and a big-name wideout that, at the very least, will sell tickets and jerseys. Amari Cooper, however, has been far from the only move that the Browns have made to bolster the roster for Deshaun Watson's arrival. They've also done a solid job keeping talent that was already on the roster. Cleveland signed corner Denzel Ward to an extension and re-signed defensive end Jadeveon Clowney. 2 moves to continue to help that defense that already has Myles Garrett, straight up just one of the best players in the league. On the other side of the ball, it's no secret that Watson gets to play behind a stout offensive line that includes Jedrick Wills, Wyatt Teller, and Jack Conklin. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are going to have plenty of holes to run through and plenty of time to get out of the backfield to catch passes if they wish. If there is a concern, it's going to be Watson's outside weapons. Past Amari Cooper, the best wideout on the team is probably Donovan Peoples-Jones, who, has shown some flashes, but still needs to prove that he can be a consistent wideout 2 years after being drafted in the 6th round. Plus, Cleveland just gave David Njoku a monster 4-year, $54 million deal at the tight end position. I mean, I don't really get it. That's a lot of money for a dude who has a single 500+ yard season. But hey, maybe he finally gets it with a real quarterback playing behind center.